Good evening. It was billed as an examination of the pressure put on then Vice President Mike Pence to do Donald Trump's bidding. And today's testimony before the January 6th committee hearings certainly was that. But in a larger sense, it was also a revelation of just how thoroughly those who were pushing to overturn the election knew what they were doing was legally and constitutionally dubious and potentially a crime. They knew, but according to the testimony we heard today, they did it anyway. And the former president not only knew that, according to the testimony, he also knew in real time that the actions he'd been taking and was about to take with his 2:24 p.m. tweet condemning Mike Pence directly endangered his vice president's life. He'd been told exactly how bad it was at the Capitol.
Although the president's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, has refused to testify before this committee, Mr. Meadows' aide, Ben Williamson, and White House Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Matthews testified that Mr. Meadows went to the dining room near the Oval Office to tell the president about the violence at the Capitol before the president's 2:24 p.m. tweet.
It was clear that it was escalating and escalating quickly. So then when that tweet, the Mike Pence tweet, was sent out, I remember us saying that that was the last thing that needed to be tweeted at that moment.
Congressman Pete Aguilar says the committee's investigation shows that immediately after that tweet, the crowd inside and outside the Capitol surged. 2 minutes later, the Secret Service evacuated the former vice president from the Senate chamber, coming within 40 feet, according to the committee investigation, of the angry mob. Now, the committee put out new images today of the location that Pence was later taken to, a loading dock, by the looks of it, where he was forced to shelter until control of the Capitol was actually restored. The photos are new, and so is the testimony that, knowing what he knew, the former president still sent out a tweet that former White House Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Matthews testified was, quote, like he was pouring gasoline on the fire, which gets the kindling for it, the legal theory that was touted by law professor John Eastman, seen here whipping up the crowd at the former president's January 6th rally on that day. He argued that Vice President Pence that day could have rejected electoral votes from states the Trump team was challenging. Now, it would have been interesting to hear him defend his theory before the committee. Instead, this is what he mostly told the panel.
I assert my Fifth Amendment right against being compelled to be a witness against myself. Fifth.
According to committee member Pete Aguilar, John Eastman took the Fifth 100 times. However, Michael Ludig, the widely respected conservative judge that Eastman once clerked for, had this to say about the legal theory.
There was no basis in the Constitution or laws of the United States at all for the theory espoused by Mr. Eastman. At all. None.
And that's what he told Mike Pence, whose own legal staff also researched the question, also found Eastman's theory bogus, and, get this, told Eastman so directly.
The history was absolutely decisive. And again, part of my discussion with Mr. Eastman was, if you were right, don't you think Al Gore might have liked to have known in 2000 that he had authority to just declare himself president of the United States? Did you think that the Democrat lawyers just didn't think of this very obvious quirk that he could use to do that? And of course, he acknowledged Al Gore did not and should not have had that authority at that point in time.
So a respected judge and legal scholar knew the Eastman theory was bogus. The vice president's own lawyers knew it was bogus. The vice president's general counsel, Greg Jacob, told Eastman he knew it was bogus. And there's also testimony that Eastman himself admitted that the plan he was pushing, if challenged, would go down in flames at the Supreme Court.
We had an extended discussion, an hour and a half to 2 hours, on January 5th. And when I pressed him on the point, I said, John, if the vice president did what you were asking him to do, we would lose 9-0 in the Supreme Court, wouldn't we? And he initially started it, well, I think maybe you would lose only 7-2. And after some further discussion, acknowledged, well, yeah, you're right, we would lose 9-0.
So if this testimony is accurate, it means that despite admitting that his plan was unprecedented, inadvisable if the other side did it, and almost certainly legally indefensible, John Eastman pressed forward on January 6th. So did Rudy Giuliani. So did the former president, who also, it was revealed today, made one final call to his vice president on the morning of the 6th, one final call to pressure him and ultimately insult him.
And what'd you hear?
So as I was dropping off the note, my memory, I remember hearing the word wimp. Either he called him a wimp. I don't remember if he said, you are a wimp, you'll be a wimp. Wimp is the word I remember.
Did Ms. Trump share with you any more details about what had happened, or any details about what had happened in the Oval Office that morning?
That her dad had just had an upsetting conversation with the vice president.
Something to the effect, the wording's wrong. I made the wrong decision 4 or 5 years ago.
And the word that she relayed to that the president called the vice president, I apologize for being impolite, but do you remember what she said her father called him?
The P word.
And then, a short time later, knowing the man was in harm's way from an angry mob for refusing to carry out a plan he'd been told was wrong and knew was wrong, he sent out a tweet. The president sent out a tweet attacking him, whipping up the crowd. According to the testimony today, he had every reason to know what he was doing was wrong. According to the testimony today, so did the people pushing John Eastman's plan to overturn the election. According to the testimony today, so did John Eastman himself. As for what Eastman did after January 6, well, today the Select Committee said they have an email that he sent to Rudy Giuliani asking to be included on a list of potential pardon recipients. The committee today argued that this indicates he knew his actions were potentially criminal.